Hi, this is Denise Wakeman, your online visibility mentor. And today I'm going to share a tutorial with you on how to set up a podcast using AudioAcrobat. This is an update to a tutorial I did about 2 years ago, and AudioAcrobat has recently upgraded and revamped and redesigned their site, so I thought it was time to do an update. So after you set up an account at audioacrobat.com and you log in, this is the landing page that you'll be on. So the first thing that you'll want to do is create a podcast. And here on the sidebar, you'll find, let me just go down here a little bit. You'll see a link for the sidebar for podcasts. You click that. Now, my assumption here is that you already have recorded an audio file. This tutorial is not about recording audio files. You already have an audio file. Now, you can see that in my account, I already have a couple of podcasts. So I'm going to show you how to create one. So it's pretty simple. You can either click here, create a podcast, or you can go over to the side here and create a podcast. Just go right here because this is right in the middle of the page. Super simple. So you click that link, and then you're going to want to have some information available. Now, the name of your podcast is the most important thing because you can't change it, and this is what creates the RSS feed for your podcast, the feed URL. And so you think about this, use keywords if you want. AudioAcrobat suggests using your name, so let's just do that, and using hyphens in between words. I'm going to set up a Denise Wakeman podcast. Now the title is what people will see, what your listeners will see, what subscribers will see. So we'll call it Denise Wakeman's podcast. You will put in a description of your podcast. Again, this is the public sees this. Your next thing that you want to do is add a piece of artwork or a graphic image for your podcast. Now, you can set it up without doing this, and you'll get this default image from AudioAcrobat. I would suggest strongly that you have an image designed that tells the story of your podcast, because that will make it stand out on iTunes and other podcast directories. So you would, once you have that, you would choose the file here and upload it. You'll need to also update this information. So this is Denise's podcast. This is basically the same information that you put above. So call this just demo podcast. And you will select your genre. Don't forget this. So let's say it's business and the language that it's in. Scroll down. Now, this is also an important link, the website URL. Does your podcast live on its own blog, or do you want people to sign up for a free gift or something like that? If it supplements another product or a program that you have, you might direct them to that page. So in this case, I would just want people to go to my blog, or I might direct them to an opt-in list, but just for this purposes, do that. But again, you'll want to think about that. You'll want to think about where do you want people to go, because this is what your audience will also see. Copyright notice, so it's whatever you put in for your copyright notice. Editor name, well, I'd be the editor, so whoever's editing your podcast. Here, if I wanted people to get in touch with me, I'd want them to use my support email. And then the next question is the maximum number of posts displaying on your feed. Now, you can limit this so that anybody who comes to your site will only see X number of posts, or anybody goes to your subscription information. I like to say all, because if somebody new comes to iTunes, for example, I want them to be able to get all my podcasts and not just the last 10. On this, you'll want to enable RSS 2.0. That'll make sure that your feed is compatible with all the different sites. And then here you have the option to syndicate your podcast to AudioAcrobat's list of podcast directories. And unless this is a private podcast, you definitely want to select that. Now, if your podcast was living somewhere else, you would put the URL that you'd be redirecting from. But in this case, we're not doing that, so we would save our changes. Okay, so now you'll see that I've got Denise Wakeman's podcast. Now it's the time to add an episode. Episodes are the individual shows in your podcast. So you click on your podcast title and you go here to New Episode. So you click on New Episode. Now, I'm presupposing that you have already uploaded an audio to your account. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute here. Okay, there we go. Now it's finally changed. All right, so you would go to you have to find the type of enclosure that you are submitting. So you can do a video podcast or an audio podcast. And again, the file has to already have been loaded. So you can go here and you'll see all your different audio files and you just select one. We'll select Pinterest. If you have a video, this is where you would select your videos, and you can add that. You can mix it. You can have a multimedia podcast. If your audio is on a different URL, you can submit it here instead of uploading it. And then you want to select whether the episode is visible or hidden, and you would only want to hide it if you don't want people to actually connect to it. Now, here's a tip. One of the things I do is I record all of many blog posts. And so what I would do is in this link URL, I would put the link to the blog post associated with this audio. So if somebody wanted to check it, read the blog post, they could click on a link. And this is where you set the date. So if your podcast is delivered every Friday, you could just click the Friday and it'll set the time, or you can manually set the time. And then you want to put in the name of your post. So in this case, it was Pinterest drives traffic. If you have a subtitle, you can do that, and then put any description that you want. And that is it. So now this episode is in my podcast show, and it will be released on Friday, and anyone who is subscribed to my podcast, it will show up in their directory on Friday. Now, so that was the episodes. Now, if you wanted to do any editing on your podcast, which is the overall show, you just click the edit button, and you can do your editing, any editing you want here. You'll want to set up your podcast to go to iTunes, and that needs to be set up separately. Now, this is the feed URL that you set up when you put in your name. So you can see it says my account name, AudioAcrobat, RSS, and DeniseWakeman.xml, and the XML indicates that it's a podcast feed. Now, if I wanted to activate iTunes, so I want it to show up in iTunes, or I can block it from being in iTunes. But if it's a public one, you want to be on iTunes because that's the biggest podcast directory on the web. Why not get the visibility from there? Now you'll want to put in you have to put in this information, put your email address in, and then type up your description, a subtitle if you have it, public information for the directory, the author, your copyright, the link URL that you want it connected to in iTunes. If you use explicit material, you must click that. If you have keywords that you want it to be associated with, put those in. And then you can select 3 categories. So let's say I do business news, and then management and marketing, and education technology. So it will be submitted to those categories, and then you would edit that. Now, once that goes through, okay, now you want to promote. So click the Promote tab, and this is going to tell you how to submit it to iTunes. Okay, here's oh no, that's not where it does it. I'll show you that in a minute. Anyway, if you want to promote this, you want to put a button on your site, on your website or your blog. You can grab the button here, so you could say, my podcast, and then it's going to give you the HTML here that you would put on your podcast. Okay, now let me go quickly back to iTunes because I think I missed a key step I wanted to tell you about. Where is it? You have to manually submit. You have to manually submit your podcast to iTunes, so I'll show you that separately. Okay, so quickly, if you aren't sure about how to add audio, you would go to the audio button, and then you would click Create Audio. And with one of the things I like about AudioAcrobat is you have a number of different ways that you can add your audio. You can either dial a phone number and record it over the phone. Super simple. Everyone knows how to use a telephone. You can use a web recorder. So if you have a microphone that attached to your computer, you can record directly into the system, or you can upload an audio file. And so you'll need to upload your audio before you can add it to a podcast. Now, let me just show you iTunes quickly. When you go to your iTunes account, you'll want to go to the iTunes Store. You have to have an account with iTunes first. And then you're going to click up at the top on Podcasts. And then over on the side here, there's a link that says Submit a Podcast. So you'll click that. And this is where you submit your podcast feed. So that feed that you created in AudioAcrobat goes right here, and then you click Continue. And that is all there is to it. You'll usually be notified within a couple of days that it's been added, and then you can start directing people to subscribe to your podcast on iTunes. So that's all there is. It's a pretty simple process. Record an audio, upload it to AudioAcrobat, create or assign the episode to your podcast, and you're on your way. Once you've submitted, or once you've set up your podcast on iTunes, you don't have to do anything else ever again. It will find the new content from your RSS feed, so you don't have to add it every time you create a new episode. So that's all there is to it. This is Denise Wakeman, and have a great time podcasting.